I'll recognize the gentleman from Arizona for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to my questions, I'm sad to see my colleagues aren't over here or on the other side of the aisle, because I think it would be nice to see the application of us drilling the Tide Foundation in the same place that you are. That would be a wonderful conversation, I think. So, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the question, for the opportunity. This is a serious issue in which the executive branch has abused its powers for political gain. My constituents in Arizona are mortified and angry. Congress must ensure that the investigation into the targeting of these groups is being conducted in a thorough, timely, and appropriate fashion. So I'm going to ask some questions very quickly to each of the witnesses, but I have a few to get through, so if you can keep it pretty concise, I think you'll be pretty self-explanatory. Would the witnesses agree, then, that the administration and the enforcement of the law should be done impartially and without regard to political affiliation?
Absolutely.
The Constitution requires it.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
So real justice should be blind.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Do the witnesses recall President Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder expressing their supposed outrage that the IRS would target organizations that do not share their political views?
Yes, sir.
Yes, May 15th.
Do you happen to share in their outrage?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So do I. And so I did find it terribly ironic that the President and the Attorney General expressed such an apparent outrage over this type of behavior, only later to assign the task to an investigator that is biased towards the administration. Yes, Ms. Barbara Bosserman, one of the lead investigators, donated nearly $7,000 to the President and the Democratic National Committee. And while I believe in everyone's right, it's everyone's right to donate political donations, I do not believe that she is the best fit to lead in this investigation and could potentially embarrass her party or the man she wanted to be President. Some might say the Department of Justice agrees that Ms. Bosserman leading the investigation is inappropriate. The committee asked the DOJ to allow Ms. Bosserman to attend the hearing today, and the answered question was they refused outright. DOJ officials had the nerve to claim that making Ms. Bosserman available to the Oversight Committee was tantamount to the targeting of a Federal employee. The use of the word targeting was not incidental. The DOJ was explicitly attempting to draw similarities between the IRS targeting of conservative groups to the House Oversight Committee targeting Federal employees. To make such an assertion is to imply that the oversight inquiries are inherently partisan, and therefore the administration can and should refuse to provide witnesses to answer questions when called upon. So I ask you, witnesses, would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, that they were targeting?
Yes.
Yes, they're targeting, but they certainly targeted many of our clients and did.
But they're also trying to utilize it like that we in this committee are actually targeting Federal employees. I mean, you can see a very strong
They've twisted the statute. They've twisted the term.
It's actually, what they're doing is conflating two issues.
Yes.
One is the IRS engaged in a systematic targeting, acknowledged systematic targeting. The selection of the Department of Justice attorney to head the investigation, they're trying to turn the targeting because we raised the concern of bias, which, of course, as a defense counsel, in our particular case, or as the plaintiff in a lawsuit, and there's a Federal investigation, of course we're going to bring that up. So they're trying to turn what is an obligation of a lawyer to not have the appearance of impropriety, and they're trying to turn that as individuals on this committee targeting this lawyer, which has never been anybody's intent.
Yeah, I agree with you. So let me switch gears for a minute, because you just took me right to where I wanted to be. Do the witnesses happen to know whether it is legal or illegal for the an IRS employee to target groups based on political affiliation or ideology?
They acknowledge, I mean, Congressman, as you know, the IRS, this is not a case where we're trying to figure out what the IRS did. They have said affirmatively, we targeted by name, we created a be on the lookout list, and they said we were wrong, that was incorrect, and, quote, we apologize. That's what Lois Lerner said.
Well, but then according to Steve Miller, the former commissioner at IRS, he absolutely said it's absolutely not illegal.
Yeah,
he made those very comments.
Yeah, well, I argued a case of the Supreme Court of the United States actually dealing with viewpoint discrimination, and all 9 justices said it was illegal.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have to rephrase the bureaucracy and the bureaucrats into in good behavior. I actually put a bill called the IRS Anti-Abuse Act, which would make and codify political affiliation or ideology as a protected class in the IRS, the Internal Revenue Code. It also expressly prohibits an employee from being threatened to audit an individual or a group due to arbitrary, capricious, or politically motivated reasons. Is it your recommendation that such provisions should become law?
I think so. I think right now the IRS is institutionally incapable of self-correcting, so legislative oversight is necessary.
And Congressman, I would like to add that I just received a text a moment ago in the recess from a person who said, I built a website for our local Tea Party group, and now I've been audited by the IRS. I've heard stories from people all over the country about having, for the first time in their lives, become somewhat politically active or active in advocacy activities, and suddenly they've been audited or their business has been audited. And I just have to think that this cannot be coincidental, and somebody needs to be doing the statistical analysis of those who have been selected for audit over the past 4 years.
Absolutely. I want to close real quickly, sir, for an indulgence. I would close by noting again that the IRS Commissioner has now approved $62.5 million in bonuses to the IRS employees for their work in 2013 to boost their morale. How absurd. I would say that those millions might be best used at the IRS to boost the ethical training and boost awareness of the United States Constitution. Thank you, sir. Yield back.